Hey, Kevin here, Mr. DIY Dork from DIYDork.com. Today I want to show you a really cool and fun way to make some extra money by flipping Craigslist furniture my way. So check this out, I think you're going to like it. Alright, so now we're on part 4 of my little video series here about how to flip furniture on Craigslist. And in this video I want to talk about the sale. And I want to go even beyond that and talk about some of the tips and tricks that I've figured out over the years that makes it go a lot easier and even increases the value of your piece. So the very first thing I want to talk to you about is the description. And basically you want a really good description that answers a lot of questions that buyers are going to have in their mind so that you don't have to deal with it later. But you don't have to put every single detail in there, okay? Just the important stuff. So you want to let them know what you have. Like if it's a 5-drawer dresser, but the top 2 are joined and it looks like it has 6 drawers, let them know that, you know, it looks like 6, but it is a 5-drawer. Or, you know, on this coffee table I'm doing, I'm not just going to sell it as a coffee table, I'm going to sell it as like a vintage distressed coffee table, or, you know, shabby chic, or, you know, add a little pizzazz without being kind of cheesy about it. And then you also want to let them know what has been done to it. So, you know, let them know it's been repainted and it's been repaired and it has new knobs on it and the leg was tightened up, whatever. But avoid the really gross details. So don't tell them that you pulled this thing out of a dumpster and you hosed diaper juice off of it, okay? Don't do that at all. And then you also want to describe like what color it is, because sometimes on someone else's computer screen it looks different. So if you painted it white, it might look light blue or cream. Or maybe you painted it really dark blue, but it looks black on the screen. So you want to let them know exactly what color it is, just in case someone's wondering. And then a huge biggie is definitely put measurements. The only thing I don't put measurements on are like dining room chairs, because they're all basically the same. But anything else, tell them what height it is, what length, what depth, you know, whatever measurement you can think of, so that someone's not going to ask you. Because if you don't, you will get a lot of emails about that, or a lot of phone calls or whatever. And then let them know what condition it's in. If you've redone it, it should be in good shape, but maybe it's a mirror and it has a scratch on the glass, you know, things like that you might want to say. But like I said, don't devalue the thing, so don't tell them that you know, it was a total junker and you pulled it from the dumpster right before a dog started peeing on it, and now it's been repaired and ready. You know, things like that are just going to totally devalue it. And then finally, put contact info. They're already going to be able to email you, but you can put a phone number if you want, but I would avoid a home address just to keep the creepers away, okay? So that's it for description. Now we're going to move on to the next step. All right, so now I want to talk about pricing. And the big thing with pricing is that if you go too high, your piece is either not going to sell at all, or it's going to be really difficult to sell. And if you go too low, you're going to find out that it's not worth it at all. You're wasting your time and your effort to barely make a few bucks off of it. The only exception I really have to this is if you're new and you're like a first timer to this, you could sell kind of low, so that way you recoup all your money that you put into the piece plus supplies, maybe even a little bit of profit, and then you can basically just reinvest that into the next project. And now you don't have to buy supplies, so you make a lot better profit. But for the most part, you want to price it so that it's worth your time and it's valuable to you to be able to keep doing this, you know. So if you're trying to figure out how much to sell it for, if you remember, we did research before and we found kind of a sweet spot, you know, kind of a zone where most pieces are listed at. And we bought our piece lower so that way we could double or triple our money. Well, now we want to hit that zone, but I really recommend going into the mid to upper range of that zone. So for example, like I mentioned before in another video, dressers in my area go from anywhere from about 70, 75 bucks up to about 150, maybe a little more, but the sweet zone is about 75 to 150. So the mid to upper range is $100 to $150, but I would go even a little higher than the 100 and probably price it at about maybe 120 to 140. So that way if someone offers me full price, great. If they chop me down, they're going to probably go down to 100 bucks, and then I'm going to re-up it. So that way I'm still, once we settle, I'm still falling in that 120 to 140 zone. And it's lower priced than the really expensive pieces, so that looks appealing, but then it's higher priced than the lower ones so that you're making good money, and it just works out for the better. And over time, you'll gain confidence and you'll realize about what pieces should go for and those sorts of things. And you're also going to realize that it's worth waiting to get the money you want. You're probably going to get a few offers. Someone's going to chop you in half, someone's going to chop you in a third. You can work out a deal. It might take a week or two, but you're going to get the money that you're going to be happy with. So that's pretty much it for pricing. You've already done the research. You know what to go for. Your piece is worth it. Someone will buy it. So now we're going to move on to the next step, photos. All right, and the third thing I'd like to talk about is taking pictures of your piece. Basically, the clearer and the cleaner and the better your pictures are, the more valuable it's going to look, and the more it's going to answer a lot of questions that people will have about your piece if you had a terrible picture. So we're kind of doing the opposite of the really poorly lit, fuzzy cell phone pictures that you see a lot of times on Craigslist. Now, it doesn't mean you can't use your phone. It just means if you use your phone or whatever camera, that you use it smart and you get really good pictures out of it. So let me show you an example of a really bad picture. Okay, so here's the coffee table that I've done for the series, but as you can see, there is just a ton of junk in the background and in the foreground, and it's too far away. You can't really tell what's going on, and it's just really distracting. A picture like this makes the person that's checking it out think that you're just trying to get rid of it. You know, it's like, oh yeah, they pulled it out of their garage and they brought it in here and they're just trying to, you know, unload it to us here on Craigslist. So what you want to do is make the piece the star of the picture, have it well lit, make it look like you really care about it, and it'll look a lot more valuable to everyone. So let me show you how to do that. Okay, and to get good pictures, one of the main keys is to have really good lighting. If you have a clean background and a big window, and you either take pictures in the early morning or in the late afternoon before evening, you have really good lighting. If you don't have a space like that in your house, what you can do is take your piece outside, and then the siding or the brick or the garage door of your house will be a nice clean background for your piece. I've even seen someone put dressers out in the middle of a field and they had really good pictures and really good lighting and it worked. It was really weird, but it worked and they sold everything. So just a clean background and really good lighting does a lot for your piece. Okay, now another trick that I've been doing lately, and this works awesome, is to take multiple pictures from different angles and different views so that it's kind of like a tour around the piece. And it'll really help answer a lot of questions for you that you otherwise would probably have to answer on the phone or through email or whatever. So let me show an example of what I'm talking about. Okay, so these are the actual pictures I used for my listing. And you can see I started with just a good general overall picture that has decent lighting and just kind of shows everything. And another key about the first picture is that it's the one that pops up with your listing when people are looking at pictures or when they're looking in the gallery mode of Craigslist. This is the picture that pops up. Then I kind of zoomed in on the top, then on the edge, then on the edge plus a little bit of the bottom, and then the bottom. So that way they can really tell what's going on. It's better than just one far away fuzzy picture. You really see what's going on. So if you're doing like a dresser or something like that and you painted the insides and it has new knobs, or you distress something, if you show off all these little features like that with a decent picture, it will really help answer a lot of questions and make your piece look like you took a lot of care with it and it's worth a lot more money. So that's basically it for pictures. Just take multiple views, really well lit, clean background, and it'll do a lot for you. All right, now the fourth thing I'd like to talk about is actually listing your piece. We've already written a description and we've already taken pictures, but now these are just some of the tricks I figured out over time of how to get the most eyeballs on your actual listing. So if you're listing during the weekdays, one of the big keys is to list in the evening, like late afternoon, early evening when people are getting home from work. What you'll find is if you're listing during the day, your piece is going to disappear real quick into like the third or fourth page. That's because like all the outlet stores and the thrift shops are listing all their pieces during the day during their open hours. But in the evening, they stop listing so much and people are already home, they're relaxing, they're checking emails, they're really starting to do some of their shopping then. So that's the time to list during the weekdays. On the weekends, it's almost the opposite. You want to catch people in the morning before they're out and about shopping or working on the lawn or whatever. So you want to list kind of during brunch hours when people are checking out things online. So that way maybe in the afternoon they'll want to meet you and pick up your piece. All right, one of the other tricks is to make 2 listings that you can keep updating. So let's say on a Monday at 6 o'clock you put your original listing. So then on Tuesday at 6 o'clock you make a very similar listing that has a different title and it's written just a little bit different so that's not a direct copy and paste. And then you can even lead with a different picture so that it looks like a different listing. And it's not trying to be scammy or anything, it's just that Craigslist doesn't like when you copy and paste because it looks like you're spamming. So you can put the same listing, just have it slightly reworded 24 hours later. So that way your Monday listing is probably down to page 4 or 5 now, but your Tuesday will be up top. Then what you do is on Wednesday, 48 hours from basically from the first listing, you can repost it. So it's like every 2 days, and it might even be a little more than 48 hours, but basically every 2 days you can repost the first listing. So on Monday you make an original listing, Tuesday make an original listing, Wednesday you can repost Mondays, Thursday you can repost Tuesdays, and then you just keep going. And you can do that for about a week and a half, 2 weeks until basically you have to make a new listing. But that'll work, and then you don't have to keep doing it all the time. You don't have to keep adding pictures and all that kind of stuff. You can just keep reposting. Okay, now another thing is that when you're actually doing the reposting, it gets very tempting after about a week or so to want to drop the price or an OBO or something like that. But like I told you earlier, you'll gain confidence over time and you'll realize that it's worth waiting to try to get your original price. And I'll talk a little bit about that in just a second. Now the fifth thing I'd like to talk about is negotiations. Your listing's up, people are starting to contact you now. These are just some of the techniques I figured out over time to make it go a little easier for the buyer and for you to even make a little more money out of the piece and just to make the sale go a little better. All right, so the first thing is that if you put up a good listing, you have a lot less questions to answer now. And it seems kind of weird to add it here, but part of negotiations is you don't want to have to start answering, what size is it and if anything's wrong with it or whatever. If you did all that in a description, all you have to talk about now is basically when and where to meet and how much you're willing to take for it. So let me show you the listing I actually did for the coffee table to show you what I'm talking about. Okay, now here's the listing, and as you can see by the title, I put it's nothing fancy, but at least it describes it a little more than just coffee table. They kind of know what's going on. And then the pictures is, like I said, it's kind of a mini tour through what it looks like. And then in the actual listing, I explained a little background that it used to be an old farm dining table and it was chopped down into a coffee table now. And I explained it's in good shape now and I've redone it and it's been painted and it is blue with a black and white top in case maybe they can't quite tell. And I gave dimensions so they know about how big it is so they'll know if it's going to fit in their vehicle or not. And then a price, and then a contact me. And then later on, after I took the screenshot, I did add a phone number. I just didn't want it here for the video. But that was it. I mean, it's nothing fancy. It's not over the top like used car salesman style, but it's also not just coffee table price. Please buy it from me in a contact number or whatever. It describes a little more, so I have to answer a little bit less now. Okay, now let's say that someone has finally kind of settled on wanting to get it from you and they want to meet. If you're kind of worried about creepers coming into your house or whatever, you can do a couple things. You can meet at a parking lot if your piece is small enough and you can take it there, or you could even just carry it out onto your porch or onto your driveway or front yard or whatever for them to check out. It'll also make it easier for them to load it in, and in a way, since it's already out there, it might make the sale go a little easier because you've put the effort to take it out there, so they'll want to take it home. So nothing big, but the easier you can make it for someone to buy, the more likely they are to actually buy it from you. Okay, now another thing, I mentioned before, it's worth waiting to get more money. What's going to happen is you're going to get a couple offers off the bat, and they're almost always going to be really lowball offers. Don't be tempted to take them just to try to get your money back faster, because they're always going to try to chop you in half or by a third, and I never take those kind of offers. What I recommend doing is sticking to your guns, stick to your price, and if you have to tell someone no, that's fine. If they come back with an offer, then you can probably work a deal. Right, so what happens is either someone's going to buy it for full price, great, sell it to them, awesome, or you're going to negotiate a deal. And I don't like to go below about 20% of my asking price, and that's usually about where I fall. It's about 15 to 20% less. On this coffee table, I asked $150. The person asked if I would take $100 for it. I told no, then it went back to $140, and then I went to $130, and we finally settled at $120. And I was expecting this piece to probably sell in the $120 to $130 range, so I got exactly what I was expecting. And that's about, 20% less than $150, so it's exactly where I thought it was going to land. If someone would have offered me $150, awesome, I only bought this thing for $30, it'd been a $120 profit. So I ended up selling for $120 and made a $90 profit, which worked out great. Okay, now another thing that a lot of people never think to do, but it's to remind your buyer to bring some old blankets or old towels and some straps to protect the piece on the way home. And the reason I say this is because a while back, I had a lady buy 3 pieces from me in one day, and she didn't have a way to bring them home, so she borrowed her boss's truck. And when she showed up, his truck had a bunch of junk in the back, and she had no way to protect it and no way to tie it down, so she just kind of put all the pieces in the back. They were all painted with some cool designs and stuff. By the time she got home, they were all torn up and scratched up, and I felt really bad, but I had, I couldn't actually do anything for her. So what I try to do now is prevent that as much as possible. So when someone says they're coming to meet me, I always tell them to bring stuff to protect it and to tie it down. And they're like, oh yeah, great, I would never have thought to do that. So it just helps, make it go a little better for them so they have a better buying experience. All right, and there you go. There's some of the really cool tips and techniques I've figured out over the years for selling furniture on Craigslist. And I think this will help cut your learning curve down quite a bit and help you make a lot more money faster. So if you like this video, go ahead and thumbs it up. Subscribe to keep up with all the other videos and tutorial series I'll be putting up here on YouTube. And if you have any comments or questions, go ahead and leave them below, and I'll try to help you out. So thanks a lot for checking this out. Watch the other videos, and I will see you in the next one.